This is Coach Lee with myexbackcoach.com, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about what it means when your ex says there's no chance of you getting back together, or what does it mean when your ex says other things about the potential of your relationship in the future. Please take a second and click the subscribe button below so that you can be notified when I have other videos that are helpful to your situation, and that includes videos on relationship success in general and on attraction. So a lot of my coaching clients who go to myexbackcoach.com and schedule a coaching call with me will often be troubled by things that their ex has said. So for example, if their ex has said, we're never getting back together, or if their ex has said, maybe next year we can get back together, or if you give me 2 or 3 months, then let's talk again and maybe we can get back together. Most of the time, and I mean in the vast majority of cases, what your ex says after a breakup means nothing. It's just not something you can take seriously. And here's why. Now, first of all, if your ex is saying this, I have to ask, have you been talking to them about this? In other words, have you been saying, do you ever think we'll get back together? And those kinds of things, which actually you definitely should not say that anymore going forward, because it puts all the power on them. It's like saying, this is all up to you. And while that may sound romantic, I think that's even the name of a movie, Down to You, I think is the name of the movie. It shows incredible weakness, that it's as though your feelings in this are just assumed, that yes, you want to get back with them no matter what, and you'll just be waiting around. That's not at all what we want your ex to be thinking or feeling about you. And so saying, do you think we'll ever get back together? And sometimes when people are in a relationship, they'll even say, are we exclusive? Which again, it's kind of like basically giving them all the power to decide everything for the relationship, or at least this big concept for the relationship. So that's not a good thing. So usually when people want to know what it means when their ex says we're never getting back together, it's because they have prodded or asked their ex, do you think we'll ever get back together? Which is a very weak question. It shows neediness. It also seems to suggest you'll just be waiting around, hoping that they keep their word, that one day you'll get back together. And I know that in the pain of the moment, that feels like the right thing to do, and you're just looking for answers, and you're desperate. You're wanting some reassurance even from your ex. But what I'm telling you is that that's not good in terms of the attraction you're trying to rebuild from your ex. Now, here's what it means when they say that. A lot of times, they are just trying to get you to leave them alone, trying to get you to accept the breakup, to back off so they can live their life. And they don't necessarily have any plans of getting back together with you, or they just want to try to really not lead you on, not give you any sense of false hope, and to even hurt you a little bit so that you'll back away. There's all kinds of things that it could be. And of course, though the title of this video is what does it mean when my ex says we're never getting back together, I'm also encompassing other predictions by your ex on the relationship. So it usually, when they give any kind of prediction, it's just to buy themselves some time from you. It's to get you to back off. Either they say that we might get back together at some point, or that we'll never get back together at some point. Usually the never get back together is when they're angry, when you have really been bugging them, and when you have just kept asking, are we ever going to get back together? Or you've been calling, texting, pleading, and you finally ask that question, and then they say, no, we're never getting back together, just like the name of the song. But here's the situation. We already know they don't want to be with you, so of course they think you're never getting back together at that moment, and they will say what they feel in the moment. They don't want to be back together with you. Just like in the moment they might have said that you're their soulmate, or that we'll be together forever, or that you're my future husband, or you're my future wife. That was said in the moment, and you can't take that to them now and say, I've got you. You said you loved me. You said you'd never leave me. You said I was your soulmate, therefore you have to stay with me because that's what you said. I've got it right here in my memory bank. It's not a binding document. It's not something you want to bind on them and say, since you said this, you can never leave me. You're going to look ridiculously weak and like a very emotionally underdeveloped person, because you can't make someone stay with you just because they said they would stay with you forever, because they said they would love you forever. And you'd be surprised at the number of people who will say to their ex, but you said you love me forever. and almost like they're trying to start a debate with them and say, here's the proof that you still love me even though you're leaving. And that's not a successful strategy. So stop that now and just know that even at that, just like your ex's words when they said, I love you forever, or you're my soulmate, that those were true in that moment and they're not necessarily true right now. The same is true if they have broken up with you and they've said, we're never getting back together. In that moment, that's what they feel. We already knew that. They're breaking up with you. So that should not be something that just destroys your hope. Sure, it's got to hurt to hear that. I know that it hurts to hear that. But a lot of what your ex says is just for the moment. And I have seen far too many cases of where an ex, or at least a boyfriend or girlfriend, says, I want to break up, we're never getting back together, I don't love you anymore, that kind of thing. And then later, even sometimes just a few weeks, they totally change their tune. And I've seen far too much of that to tell you to give up hope. In fact, my experience says the opposite, that you should not take seriously what they say. And that doesn't mean that you tell them, no, it's not true. That would be the worst thing you could do, because then they will try to prove it to you. What you need to do is accept what they say. Don't try to fight them on it. Give them the breakup, back away. You've likely heard me say something like that before, but it's very true and it's very important. And I want you to know that just because they feel it at this moment does not mean that you cannot change their feelings, or at least give yourself the best opportunity that they will change their feelings by giving them the breakup, giving them their space. If they do reach out to you, by showing that you're not bitter, by being polite. It's kind of a simple concept. But if you can show them that you're not bitter, that you're not going to unfriend them on Facebook or whatever social media, that you're showing them that they can't really get to you that much because you're a strong person, that though this may hurt, that you can move on. That's what we want them to see. And that's a lot of the time all it takes to start them on the path to where they feel differently. And if they just say it one day and then change their minds in that day, do you really feel like that's solid ground? Someone who says one thing that's extreme and then a few hours later says something else that's extreme. And a lot of times I do talk to people who are trying to get their ex to change their mind on something like that. I don't love you anymore. And they're trying to convince them, yes, you do. Here's why. Well, that's not something you can logically argue them into believing. You can't logically argue someone into loving you. And if you could, do you trust it? If you could change your ex's mind in one day, do you trust if they wanted to break up with you and then a few hours later they didn't? Now, that doesn't mean that you reject it, but do you trust it if it's changing like that? If it's like a wave in the ocean, it's up, it's down, is that something you feel comfortable with? And so that's another reason why when someone breaks up with you, that you do need to give them space, you need to back off, let them have the breakup. And if they do reach out to you, that you need to be polite and casual while not trying to get back with them in terms of saying, hey, let's get back together. That you not try to discuss the relationship with them unless they bring it up, because we don't want their defenses going up. We want them to have their defenses down so that they are more open to having feelings for you and considering these things. Whereas if you're actively trying to get them back and they know it, that's where the defenses come up. And so you actually are making more progress in getting them back by not trying in most situations, because you don't raise their defenses, and so they're not literally fighting you. And someone who's not fighting is much easier to overtake. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about overtaking anybody, but I'm saying in this sense, when they're fighting against getting back with you because you're trying to get them back, then they're literally working against it, and you're going to make far less progress. So when they say something, even if it's as hurtful as we're never getting back together, understand that in the moment, yes, they mean that and that hurts, but that can change. And you shouldn't be asking that kind of question anyway. So don't ask again, are we ever going to get back together? Or do you see us ever getting back together? Because first of all, it makes you look bad. It makes you look weak, makes it look like they have all the power and you're just hoping and sitting back waiting on them. That is not the picture you want to paint for your ex. And second of all, because whatever they feel in that moment is irrelevant. You already know they want to break up with you. So you need to look at it as, in that moment, they're talking about forever. As difficult as that is, that's what you face in that moment. And you need to know that your best bet in terms of getting them back is to accept that, respect their decision, and to back away. But again, your ex could be saying this because they genuinely feel it, or they could be saying it to try to get you to back away from them. And this even includes if they say, yeah, I see us maybe in a year we could get back together. They don't know. They don't know how they're going to feel in a year. You know, they're just saying things to you to try to get you to accept the breakup. So go ahead and accept the breakup. Let them feel that relief that they will feel the first few days, so that they can go ahead and get into the stage where they miss you and where they're reconsidering and they're curious about you and they wonder if they did the right thing. That's what you want to happen. And if you're fighting them on it, then they are literally sitting there finding ways to defend themselves and to fight for the breakup. You don't want them fighting you. You don't want them fighting for the breakup. So don't ask if they think you're going to get back together. Don't ask if this is forever, because you don't even want them thinking those thoughts. And just know that in the moment they have broken up with you. This is what they want right now. When you accept that, you actually stand the best chance of getting them back. If you'd like to schedule a coaching call with me, go to myexbackcoach.com, which should be linked to in the comments below. This has been Lee with myexbackcoach.com. Thank you for watching.